Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about if you actually want Europa Universalis 5. So a couple of days ago, I posted this poll on the channel over here asking the question, do you actually want Europa Universalis 5? Vote in the poll and explain why or why not in the comments, and I'll put it in a video, and obviously this is that video. So it's been about 3 or 4 days since I posted this poll right here, and it has gotten 17,000 votes, which is a decent number, and honestly man, these results did surprise me. It was a lot closer at the beginning too, but at the end we've ended up with 58% of you voting that you actually do want EU5, and 42% actually voting that you do not want EU5. So in today's video, we're going to be going over those results, and I'm going to be going through the comments as well, reading through them, see what you guys think, and I'm going to be telling you my point of view, if I agree or disagree with the comments and whatnot, telling you my perspective as a content creator that mainly focuses on EU4, and at the end of the video, I'll answer the question if I actually want Europa Universalis 5. So let's start going through these comments right here. There is about 345 of them, and I'll try and go through the top comments and see what you guys think. So this first comment right here says, at this point, how long would it take EU5 to have the same level of polish? They've designed themselves into a corner by working on one game for so long that I'm not even sure if they can make EU5. Also, yes, would love to see the formula updated in a major way. So, right here, not sure if they even can make EU5. I do think, yes, obviously they can make EU5, and I do think Paradox is already working on EU5 despite them saying otherwise. Now, designing themselves into a corner by working on one game for so long, not sure if that's true, but they are definitely at a point where the expectations are really high, and it is going to be difficult for them, to beat EU4 with EU5 straight out of the box. And finally, his first point right here, at this point, how long would it take for EU5 to have the same level of polish? And judging by Crusader Kings 3 and Victoria 3, that is a major concern that I have as well. How good will EU5 be straight out of the box, man? How many DLCs will it take to get to the level of content that EU4 is at? And I'm also wondering how much of EU4, mainly the flavor, how much of EU4's flavor will be included in EU5. So a good point right there by Firestorm. Gavin right here says, we have almost reached the limit of what EU4 has to offer under the surface. I do sort of agree with that mechanically wise. And without a complex new engine, many things that people want, dynamic trade, will simply be impossible to implement. So definitely I do agree with this. This is a major talking point that everyone has in the community. The main point of EU4, it's not that it's a bad game or an old game or boring or anything like that, is that the engine is actually too old to implement any new mechanics, and it's just simply not possible in the state that EU4 is right now. And then he says, it's a concern that Vic 3 launched without seemingly improving on Vic 2, but in theory, EU5 should be released in the next couple of years. I would aim for a 2025 release. So with the final point right there, yes, it definitely is a concern that Vic 3 sort of, didn't majorly improve on Vic 2, and it is even a little bit dumbed down, so to say. Well, that's of course to be more accessible to newer players, but yeah, whereas EU5 in the next couple of years, I would aim for a 2025 release. I do agree with that myself as well. I do think that we will see EU5 in 2025. That is my theory as well. Nothing confirmed or anything like that, but that's what most of the people think. Now here we have a different point. I think EU4 is currently perfect as is, and this is something I do agree with actually. I would have, if you added DLCs almost one at a time. I first got this and this and that. This allowed me to see the flavor of each DLC one by one, and I think Paradox should keep doing that. Yes, I'm also in the same boat right here, getting every DLC one by one. I've been playing for so long, and you do see the game develop and stuff like that, whereas a lot of newer players, a lot of them would have started out with every DLC already gotten, getting all the DLCs on a Humble Bundle and whatnot, or a Steam sale, and a lot of people haven't seen the game evolve, and I do agree here with this person that I share the same perspective. And then he says, even if I think that 135 will make it unbalanced, especially with the Ottomans in Spain, this is something I do not agree with. I don't think it'll make it unbalanced. I'm really happy to see how they updated idea groups and personalized government reforms. This is what Paradox should keep doing. The game still has room for improvement, but there are no inherent major flaw which you'd need to change with a completely new game. And once again, I agree with this. There aren't any inherent flaws, but then we have that other point where the engine is old. But keeping the engine aside, I do think that the game is pretty perfect as is. Mike here says, I'm worried U5 will be similar to Vic 3. I was never a big Vic 2 player, so it didn't bother me as much, but we're very disappointed about a subpar U5. The problem will be taking a huge step back from the level of U4 in terms of features and playability. I think the smartest thing for Paradox would be to release essentially a polished and condensed version of U5 with a new engine. That way it could be updated for legacy players while still appealing to new players, plus you wouldn't want to see that massive drop in gameplay mechanics and quite frankly enjoyability that you have from Vic 2 to Vic 3. Yeah, I agree with this. I don't know if Paradox can essentially release an updated or polished EU5 on a new engine like that. I think it's basically the same workload as creating a completely different game. And of course, you got to think about profitability right here. How many people would buy a polished, EU4, so to speak, or a revamped one instead of EU5, right? You got to look at it like that too. But I don't think we'll be taking a huge step back in terms of features and playability. I think most of the stuff from U4 should be in U5, but then again, I guess we'll have to see. This person says, I'm still relatively new to the game. I started playing in January, February 2022, so that's, almost a little more than a year. There are so many unique nations I haven't played yet, and a couple I'd like to repeat because I was too big of a noob when I first started playing them. Even if U5 comes out, I'll probably buy it a couple of years later when it gets a good discount and a bunch of patches, DLCs. Yeah, I was also thinking about this, man, how many people wouldn't move on from EU4, right? Obviously, Victoria 2 being such an old game, it didn't have a really big player base, and, all the Victoria 2 fans or, other Paradox game fans immediately jumped to Vic 3, but, Crusader Kings 2 didn't, drop off like this when Crusader Kings 3 came out. It sort of kept going down gradually, you know what I'm saying? And I think with EU5 when it comes out, we won't see a massive drop of players, going like this, and then everybody just moving to EU5. I think, the player base of EU4 will slowly taper off until, 1 or 2 or 3 years into EU5's development cycle. Federico here says, EU4 is without a doubt my favorite strategy game ever. I would like to see a modern version with different possibilities of new mechanics. I agree with that. This person here says, I'm extremely skeptical on Paradox's ability to actually improve the formula for EU5 instead of just making it different in the same odd way that they seem cool for some reason. As well, how long till it has as much depth of flavor as EU4? Yeah, we definitely touched on this. This is my concern as well. How long will it take for EU5, to get up to the level that EU4 is at currently? A game that's been out for 10 years, and it'll be out by like 12 or 13 years when EU5 comes out. We're gonna see many more DLCs until then too, so yeah. Jonathan Dorsey here says, I wouldn't mind a graphical update with some extra polish, but EU5 would probably need some new base mechanics reworked to have it a bit different from what we have now. I wouldn't mind that for shifting how trade node works, and I think end nodes are kind of silly, but otherwise I'm not sure it will be better than EU4 is right now. A major talking point when people say what they want in EU5 is dynamic trade nodes. So basically, you being able to switch the trade nodes where they exit, where they enter, and stuff like that. And I think this is definitely something that Paradox is trying to implement. It's a big demand from the community, but I'm not actually sure if that would be possible, because I have seen some comments from some developers and stuff like that. Basically, with dynamic trade, the AI or you, for example, would be able to create closed trade loops, right? Basically, I don't know, conquer something like Europe, for example, all of Europe, and then enclosing all of the trade in Europe within Europe. Nothing going in Europe, nothing going out, right? So I'm not sure that that is something that they necessarily want to happen. And, as for dynamic trade, I'm interested in seeing if it's implemented, how such closed loops of trade would be prevented. So yeah, personally, I'm not sure if I want dynamic trade. I'm probably leaning towards no dynamic trade more than dynamic trade. One more person here saying they would love a EU4 remaster. Then we have, I'd love to update the engine. Paradox knows what works for EU4, so they can integrate that in EU5 and make the game better than it's ever been, but I feel like some parts of the game are too old to use and newer parts are overwhelming in terms of power creep. Yeah, once again, another point about the engine. That seems to be one of the main talking points so far in these comments as well. People more so saying that they would like the engine to be updated so EU4 could have new mechanics rather than wanting EU5. Then again, the votes are pretty close too, 58-42. EU4 is 10 years old now. They've put so much work into it, but they have a more advanced engine now that can provide the game with incredible visual upgrade as well as much needed performance upgrade. Given how smoothly newer Paradox titles run in comparison, I think EU4 deserves some kind of love in the form of a major overhaul onto the new engine. Or EU5. Once again, going back to the engine right here, first I'm going to touch on this visual upgrade thing, and of course, the newer Paradox games do look good, and I'm talking about Imperator Rome, rest in peace, Crusader Kings Victoria 2, but once again, in terms of the visual thing and in terms of the UI thing, I do think that the UI in Crusader Kings 3 and in Victoria 3 is, how do I say it without being harsh, really dumbed down. And that's, of course, for the purpose of making these games accessible to newer players. And I touched on this on Twitter as well, retweeting a Lord Lambert tweet, where I basically said that the, Crusader Kings 3 and Victoria 3 UI, especially the notification system, is horrible. In my opinion, EU4 has the best notification system of any Paradox game ever. You know, with the pop-ups right here, the banners, red is bad, yellow, you kind of want to take care of it, green is actually something good that may benefit your nation, whereas in CK3 and in Victoria 3, they're locked behind this bubble that gives you notifications, you don't even know how to deal with them. Sure, they do give you tips on what you need to do, but I feel like leaving the banners for EU5 and then, you know, hovering over them and then it giving you tips like it is in Crusader Kings 3 and in Victoria 3, we could see sort of a mashup between the notification systems, and I think that will be really good for EU5. Once again, touching on the visuals, I really strongly dislike, I can even say I hate the fact that in Crusader Kings and in Imperator and even sorta in Hearts of Iron and Victoria 3, that horrible zoom in from a political to terrain map, I really strongly dislike it. And I can honestly say here, guys, no meme, that zoom in from political to terrain is 50% of the reasons why I don't play those games, man. I just can't look at that map, yo. Straight up. Devin here says, I want it because I want a high quality game without having to buy all sorts of DLCs. I'm hoping that EU5 would improve on EU4 by including some of the changes that the DLCs made. Also, I want a new era to explore. 1444 is an interesting start, but there are a lot of interesting points in history that a sequel could base itself in. That's the kind of stuff that gets the imagination going. You know, good points right here, Devin, but I don't think we're going away from 1444, man. I think that is the definitive start date. It's a great start date right before the collapse of Byzantium, and there's a lot of interesting features right there. The Spanish Civil War, you know, the War of the Roses, the England-France War, starting one day after the Battle of Varna, I do think is a perfect starting date. But a high-quality game without having to buy any sorts of DLCs, I guess I would agree with you on that. I definitely want EU5 to include some EU4 stuff. The Norman here says, I want a better game, but at the same time, CK3, Victoria 3, and Imperator Rome has shown me that half-baked games take a lot of time to really become good, and in some cases, the fandom might not be willing to wait, like with Imperator Rome. And yes, I do agree with this as well. Not to say that they're half-baked, but you know, I would say they're more beginner-friendly. And you know, these two especially lacked some features from their predecessors, but then again, Imperator Rome was a new IP altogether, right? It didn't have a fandom to fall back on, it wasn't a sequel. So yeah, that was definitely part of the downfall of Imperator Rome. I think some of the stuff we're seeing in these last updates should be generalized in EU5, so it's a good thing that they're trying it now. Yes, this is definitely the case, especially with the branching and dynamic mission trees, and you know, with this latest update that's coming to the Ottomans and one more nation, I think, where basically it's sort of to contain empires and make them, you know, if they're too large, make them collapse in on themselves, and those two especially, I think, are going to be big parts of EU5, dynamic mission trees and the whole thing to make empires collapse. I want some of the features the devs have said are impossible in EU4, and I would have to wait for a sequel, such as pop system and dynamic trade. But I'm also in a no rush to leave EU4 behind, and I still think it has a fair bit of life left. I agree with the second statement, and for the first time in this video, we're touching on pops right here, a population system, mainly like what Victoria 3 has. And, you know, when we were at PDXCon last September, there was an EU4 panel with Johan and a bunch of devs there as well. And unfortunately for me, they said that there isn't gonna be mana in EU5, basically Monarch points, admin, Diplo, and Mill. A lot of the community is divided on this. Lots of people love it, lots of people hate it. You basically can't be indifferent to mana or Monarch points in EU4. And I do think it's a big shame that they won't be in EU5, which is what they said right there. Also, as for pops, I don't want to see pops in EU5, man. Lots of people love that system. I'm not a fan of it in any of the Paradox games. I do think, you know, as much as I want these games to be complex and stuff like that, I really don't think EU5 needs pops. I'm probably in the minority here, but yeah, no pops, please. I'm interested in seeing how much better performance EU5 might have, especially mid to late game and in multiplayer. Multiplayer is often frustrating for my friends and I, as the game usually slows down to 1 or 2 speed after a short amount of time in 3. Yeah, performance, obviously everyone expects better performance, but listen, I'm not that much of a Vic 3 player. I have played it for quite a while, mostly in the early game, but haven't people been saying that the performance is horrible in the mid and late game? So, you know, and that's especially the case, I'm assuming, because of pops and of all the calculations Vic 3 has to do, but performance, I don't know if it's gonna be better than EU4, man. Sure, it might run on multiple cores instead of one, like EU4 does, but I guess we'll have to see when we get there. Marcus here says, I finally managed to teach a game to a few friends, and I don't want a new game until they have grown a bit tired of it. Well, Marcus, you got a couple of more years left, buddy. Let's hope your friends don't get tired, huh? I think the current game is almost perfect, but I love a graphics update. The maps on CK3 and Vic 3 are really good, and if they could keep the current game and engine but make it look prettier, why start again from scratch? Yeah, like I said, I touched on the graphics earlier. I'm not really a fan of the zoom in from political to terrain, but otherwise, yeah, the maps do look good, man. They do look good. I want to have U5 because it'll be way smoother and more optimized modern code than EU4. Probably yes. But EU4 is just evolving in such a positive way that it makes me want them to innovate even more and keep making it even greater rather than switching their focus onto a new game already. Well, I do agree with this, and while I don't think they'll immediately switch focus once they start deving U5, like I said, I do think those guys are already working on U5, and you know, presumably they'll keep working on U4 right up until they announce U5, man, and they'll have like a couple of months to a year with really no new content for U4, and then U5 drops, so don't worry about them abandoning U4, alright? It's good, and it's in good hands. If they did start up with the intentions of a new game, I hope they take the time to look at U4. It took a long time to get to where we are, and not all of it was smooth. Yeah, I agree, especially, but I'm sure that the devs, the current devs, and the whole team in Tinto and stuff like that, they did learn a lot in Leviathan. And let me say this again that I haven't mentioned it for a while. Leviathan was the good DLC, man. It brought lots of awesome features. You know, some of them weren't tweaked, but, you know, it brought lots of nice mission trees, great content to Southeast Asia. It's just that the launch wasn't good, right? The launch of that whole update wasn't good. The update and the DLC was good. It's just the launch, they didn't take them time to polish. I'm sure, you know, they had a couple of notes from the guys upstairs. Hey, you know, launch this DLC, we gotta go. Fiscal chorus here, right? So yeah, if they had like 2 more weeks on Leviathan, it would be good, but these guys are definitely gonna take the time to look at U4. All of the updates after that have been excellent. Lots of bug fixes, lots of nice DLCs, so yeah, I don't think they'll make a major mistake like that again in the future. Here's hoping. I would be interested to see it, if only to see where Paradox goes with it and how they make it worth the while for those who have invested hundreds of dollars and thousands of hours in EU4. Good point. Not really anything to add to that, I agree. Better learnability, I guess. I mean, Vic 2 is significantly harder to grasp than Vic 3. Also, I want a Hoi 4 style frontline because I don't like microing sometimes. 5+ armies. Yeah. As for microing, man, I do think there should be an ability to assign a bunch of your armies to the AI, and those armies that you assign to the AI would basically be controlled like your vassal armies are, or your PU subjects or your allies. Basically, you know, you let the computer do something with the army, tell them, okay, attack in this region, while you know, focus on a certain area by controlling armies yourselves. I do think better micro is definitely needed in EU5. As for Vic 3 being easier to grasp than Vic 2, yes, it is a lot more beginner friendly, and I do think that theme will continue in EU5. Hopefully not with the notifications though. Just imagine what the map's gonna look like. Well, the same. If they could drop on EU4 with better load times, life would have been a dream. Listen, EU4 takes a little to load, man. Only when I launch it for like the first time in a day, when I booted up my computer, it only takes a long time then, but otherwise load times are good for me, at least. I would like U5, but I hope it feels more like a remake of the current U4 in a new engine than a brand new game. Paradox has had a bad tendency lately of trying to change too much in their sequels and getting bad results of this. Yeah, lots of people saying this, like if they want EU5, they sort of want it to lean heavily on EU4 and more it to be you know, a remake or stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely a point I haven't seen until now, but lots of people saying it in the comments. I think there needs to be more updates and then a long and tedious development so they can actually put out a polished game. So I guess I agree with that. Bogdan here says yes, mostly because it can be upgraded to have more complex system like population, dynamic cities, towns, adaptation to raising. So presuming the Mongols raid some town, it will be wiped out or relocated and that province will stop to produce stuff for a while. This is a good point actually for raising, especially that maybe, you know, yeah, the province could stop producing, you know, additionally dev if it still exists in U5. Once again, it could be lost, but yeah, I definitely think bigger penalties for raising. As for pops, like I said, I don't want that. If recent PDX releases are anything to go by, then no. That said, there are some things that really need reworks that maybe they would fix in U5, like trade being too static and the new world in general. Yeah, I agree with this, and unfortunately, I agree with this too. Steve says, no, not at the moment. There should be no rush to U5. Just build a graphically improved version of U4. Once again, this other person pointing out that they would like a remaster of U4. Paradox should continue to build on CK3 and Vic 3 and learn the lessons from there, and then eventually apply that to a fully fleshed out U5 when it comes out. Nothing I disagree with right here. This person says, I don't really know what to answer here. On one hand, an upgrade would certainly be very welcome, but just like others have said, it would take at least 3 or 4 years to get the game to an acceptable level of detail. Just look at what's going on with CK3 and how bare bones it still is. And yeah, man, I gotta say, I feel for the CK community. Why aren't there any DLCs for it, right? Why? is CK getting new content so slowly and stuff like that. And you know, in the U4 community right here, we're used to like 2 updates per year, man. You know, like a big DLC at the beginning of the year, and then you know, something minor at the end, some tweaks, a nation here and there, right? That's been the formula for like 10 years. Big DLC, small DLC, big DLC, small DLC, big update, small update, and stuff like that. So yeah, man, if we see like bare bones updates like CK3 has been getting in U5, I don't think that's gonna go down well. At least not with me. I want U5, but I'm easily prepared to wait another 5 years for it, as I want it to be better than U4 in its current state, best it's ever been. I agree, U4 has never been better than it is right now. And I'm not sure that U5 will be better than U4, you know, comparing U5 at launch to U4 at the end, unfortunately, man, I gotta say, there's no way U5 is gonna be better than U4. I'm not sure what these guys at Tinto are gonna have to do. Shout out to a lot of those guys there, man, awesome people, but yeah, I'm reserved, you know, for that, I'm reserved. Issue is, technical limitations of the old engine are there. Yep, we need U5 on a technical level, true. However, it means the loss of so much flavor and mechanics and going back to bare bones game. On the good side, we'll have huge influence of modder shell community in PDX Tinto at the moment, so I'm very happy with that. Yeah, lots of modders being hired by PDX Tinto, man, especially, you know, the boy Big Boss. I know that guy, he's a great guy, and I feel like his missions, especially and stuff like that, and the mechanics that they've taken inspiration from that he has made, you know, in the mission trees, I do feel like that Tinto has some really good employees right there, man, and people that love the game, that create all of these games with a passion, man, and yeah, these guys want to make the best game too, man, so, you know, it's easy to dunk on the devs when everything goes wrong, but it's also easy enough to not praise them when they do everything right. And you got to remember, guys, that these people, man, that work at Tinto or at the other studios and whatnot, they're humans like us, man. They're people, they got feelings, right? Imagine you go at your job, you know, I don't know, at Subway, you make sandwiches, and you know, everyone that you give a sandwich to comes back to you and says, this sandwich is shit, you should do this, blah blah blah, do this, do that, and but when the sandwich is good, everyone leaves and no one says anything. So yeah, man, take it easy on the devs, all right? There are gonna be mistakes again, there is gonna be good stuff too, so yeah, man, you know, when it's good, make sure to tell those guys it's good, and when it's bad, you know, lay off them a little bit. Come on, they got feelings too. Teddy says, I want improvements that only a new game can give, but I also want more content. If U5 launches with less content and a DLC than what's already in U4, I'm just not going to play it for a few years till it's on sale. I've got plenty I can do in U4 still. Yeah, I agree with this. There's definitely needs to be lots of content, and you know, I feel like U5, man, it needs to be like at 85% of the level that U4 is right now at launch, right? We don't want it stripped back and then everything added later. Get everything in U4, put it in U5, then add new stuff to U5, something that we haven't seen or whatever. It's a commitment to get a new Paradox game. I think U4 is my first and last one. Yeah, pretty much the same reason I mainly play U4. I love for them to make an U5, but prefer it if they would add some of the DLCs to the base game. If you wanted to start playing U4 at this point, you'd almost have to have half of the current DLCs offered to make the game playable, in my opinion. Listen, I played with the Ottomans, it wasn't that bad. Although lots of you said I should have played a weaker nation, but I agree, lots of stuff from DLCs needs to be added into the base game, right? You don't want the devs taking stuff away that we already have and then you paying for them again later. I wish for a bit more flavor for U4, but we have mods. I'm curious to see what they do with U5. Yep. Just a statement right there. John says it's a business decision. You can only expand one thing for so long until it becomes unwieldy, especially chord mechanics. It's sometimes easier to raise things to the ground and start anew. A game with $200 worth of DLCs is also intimidating for new buyers like myself who are willing to wait for a humble bundle deal. U5 will run much smoother with an engine that's not a decade old too. Yep, can't say I disagree with anything else right here. Good points, John. Stefan says the amount of cut content DLCs will be too huge for me to bear it. Yeah, let's hope it's not. The next move is to just make the mega campaign a reality. New game, new name, goes all the way to the end of World War II or something. Yeah, I'm not sure that this is something we actually want, Caleb. Well, there's always the possibility to continue with U4. If U5 turns out to be an unpolished game at the beginning, I'm still looking forward to U5 though, and I hope that I can go back to the main menu without having to restart the game every time. Same, Jonas, same. Pacemaker says, I don't think Paradox can create something better, but if yes, I would gladly see it. But to be honest, to find better mechanics and putting something new would be a very time-consuming thing, needing a lot of effort and imagination. Yeah, I sort of agree and disagree here with Pacemaker. Not that I don't think Paradox can create something better, but I do think that EU4 is the peak of what Paradox can create. In my opinion, EU4 is the perfect grand strategy game. I'm not saying that just because it's my main game right here, but of course, you know, even though it might not be the most played Paradox game, you know, Crusader Kings and, you know, Hearts of Iron is obviously the most popular one. I think Stellaris is up there with it being on console as well. I still think CK3 has less players than EU4, but, you know, it is Paradox's flagship. It is the grand strategy game. You know, in Crusader Kings, you're a character. Victoria 3, it's sort of an economy game in the Victorian era. Hoi 4 is a World War II game, whereas U4 is the grand strategy game, encompassing the longest time frame. You are literally the country, you know, the amalgamation of all the different systems and characters and politics and economy and stuff like that that goes into a country. So it is the pinnacle of grand strategy gaming. Can Paradox create something better? I hope so, but I think U4 is the best. Kind of hard to replicate the accumulated historicity, is that a word, in the form of flavor events, flags, etc. that U4 has going for it, but all the props to them if they succeed. Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I don't know which way I want to vote. Part of me wants a game built on a new engine with better capabilities because the current game can only go so far with new mechanics, but also they've put in so much into EU4 that I'm reluctant to start over with another game that I have to buy another $400 worth of DLCs for overtime to get the most out of it, and that would have a limited polish and flavor at the start of its lifetime. Yeah, the price point obviously has got to be, you know, another, you know, talking point when talking about these kinds of things. You know, the old game versus the new game, and yeah, you know, you want a DLC on launch, but it's like 20 bucks or whatever, then you won't have it. You gotta wait for a sale. You've already put in all the money into U4, so yeah, man, a good point, I'd say. James says, depends on how much of U4 gets carried over. Would really suck to spend all that money only to end up with another EU3 to EU4 situation. I wasn't around for this, but I've heard stuff about that. But yeah, definitely lots of U4, like I said, around 85% needs to be carried over to EU5. Pretty much all the good stuff. I think it's high time for some new base mechanics and a map that is beautiful as Victoria 3. However, Victoria 3 felt shallow in many ways that U4 feels complete, and I don't want to imagine U4 without that depth. I think it's time for U5, but it needs to keep original, look better, and have that sweet, sweet new government or system. I agree with this, and yeah, man, another point about Victoria 3 that I want to add right here, not that I've played it too much, I don't really have that much time in it. I do find it sort of interesting, but playing every nation to me feels the same. Maybe because I'm, you know, so used to U4 and I'm constantly comparing any grand strategy game that I play with it, but there isn't really a lot of flavor in Victoria 3, man. In U4, you can take two HRE 1 province minors that are right next to each other. I don't know, take like Cologne and Trier, for example, or something like that, or Goslar and Anhalt or whatnot, and they would both feel like completely different games, completely different nations that you're playing, even though these two nations don't have unique government reforms, no unique missions, you know, weak-ish national ideas. You know, take any two nations, no matter how close or far they are in U4, and they feel like completely different games. You know, the story, it's about the story you get with your country while taking it from the start to the end or whatnot, whereas in Victoria 3, it all just feels the same. If U5 came out, I would probably keep playing U4 until DLCs add playability to U4. People forget how few countries are really playable in vanilla U4. Most have generic missions, and subjects are extremely hard to play as. Yeah, let's hope that's not the case in the next one. I would like it, but it needs to have some fundamental changes for the better, like a logistics system or a detailed inter-country management in order to compensate for the huge lack of content compared to EU4. Yeah, good point right there. EU4, but with an upgraded engine / certain performance issues addressed is all we need. Big agree, Will. Big agree. While I would love to see it in some ways, only if it's a new engine with all the current content. Once again, lots of people talking about, you know, they would rather have EU4 on a new engine and keep it updated perpetually. The main issue I have with a hypothetical EU5 is the fact that it'll probably be an unfinished game which needs tens of $20 DLCs to be played properly. At full price, U4 base game is 40 bucks. With all the DLCs, it's worth more than $350. As much as I would love it, I would never pay that much for it. Now, I'm not opposed to the idea of U5 releasing, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a great game if handled properly, but it has to be handled properly. And releasing an unfinished game with tens of DLCs, each of which are more expensive than many other completed games, does not fit my idea of handled properly. I feel like a cow which is being milked. I'd rather wait until 2028 and pay 80 bucks and get a complete game with a few paid ads. Yeah, you know, lots of people addressing the DLCs in this sort of fashion where you'd rather pay once for a complete game, but the truth is, man, this is Paradox's, you know, content system or income system or whatever you want to call it. If you only got U4 for a one-time price, you know, pay $40 for it in 2013, you would get an EU5 in 2015, and an EU6 in 2017, and an EU7 in 2019 and whatnot, right? Like Call of Duty games or FIFA games, right? The DLCs and the new content being added is the reason we get to play this game in its 10th year now, and we'll probably get to play for like 12 or 13 years, right? So, you know, you do get a DLC, and sure, I get your point that you're feeling like you're being milked or whatnot, but, you know, think of it as a subscription system, man. You pay, you know, 20 bucks a year for a new DLC, get new content, but that 20 bucks contributes to the game being developed more and more. That's why you get to play EU4 for 10 years, and that's why you gotta buy a new FIFA every year for 60 bucks. I know which one I'd rather choose. Well, yes, I do think EU5 will need to have most of what EU4 has at this point, with the overlaps to some of the systems, along with an updated engine. In May last year, it was not even in development. It won't be here for many, many years. Yeah, I do think it's in development secretly. To add to that once again, many, many years. Not sure about many, but many? Just one? 2025 is what I'm thinking. You know, we're getting Cities 2 this year. Maybe next year we get that, you know, Life by You game, you know, the Sims-like game. Not to compare with Sims or whatnot. It'll crush Sims for sure. But yeah, 2025 is looking like the year for EU5. Well, it will be difficult to match EU4 content-wise. A new engine is needed. Yep, once again with that. If they do, I hope they will calm down with the DLCs, or at least make bigger and cheaper ones than they do currently. Because right now, you could buy like 6 other games with the money you need for the DLCs right now. Once again, this is not a problem for me personally. I don't play any other games. But yeah, I definitely get your point. Unfortunately, I do think the business model will stay. EU4 is still getting major updates and DLCs. The gameplay doesn't feel out of date, I agree. And the new 5 announcement right after the City Skylines 2 announcement might be a bit too soon. Also, just think how long it would take to get a supposed EU5 to be just as good as EU4. Yeah, we talked about this, and like I said, I think we'll get a EU5 announcement probably next year, man. 2024 EU5 announcement. You heard it here first. At least that's what I think. The thing which I'm worried for is that they'll make EU5 a high-end game like they did with Vic 3. If they can make EU5 a normal game without AVX, not sure what that is, audio visual effects, then I'm okay with it because I don't have a high-end system. Oh, you mean like demands, like PC demands and stuff like that? I mean, that's just how game development trends, man. As you get further along, you know, you need more and more powerful PCs to run, you know, these calculations and stuff like that. Sure, you won't need a bomb-ass GPU, but yeah, I'll definitely need a good CPU and a bunch of RAM for, you know, these types of games, I feel like. I already spent way too much money on EU4, and I'd hate having to start collecting DLCs all over again with EU5. I don't think I'd bother with EU5. It's going to take years before it's properly up to snuff anyway. Yeah, lots of people sharing this opinion. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. This is in relation to the poll. It's a difficult question because we cannot expect that EU5 at its release will be anything close to the complexity and depth that EU4 is right now with the years of ongoing development and DLCs. True, but there are aspects of EU4 besides the graphics that are worth improving, like how trade works, even the diplomacy could be a bit more modern. I would wish that EU5 could get the game to a point where it feels like I'm playing a country full of people and not a colored blob between other blobs. Good point. But more events to make role-playing more interesting than simply painting a map, but without copying Victoria. The core gameplay loop of EU4 is great. Some tweaks could be made to make it more diverse. So yes, I would like to play EU5. Dunn here says it would have to be entirely new, which they will call it EU5 or port most of the EU4 DLCs and features over, which would leave Paradox with no easy DLC money from EU4. There is also a chance that they move to a pure subscription mode for EU5, which I believe is being seriously discussed at Paradox HQ. Well, I haven't heard anything about this. I said yes, but I see the no vote of 46% currently, and it's concerning, or at least should be to PDX. They gotta let the hype build, they gotta make sure it blows minds enough to substitute for the dearth of content compared to EU4. Ultimately, the amount of content is sort of the problem. There are who knows how many players who barely scratch the surface of the current game. Those casuals won't be buying 5. Yeah, and lots of other points like that. So yeah, the 46% no vote currently should be concerning to PDX, I feel like. And maybe some of them are watching this video, so hi. I want EU5 that's just EU4 on a better engine. Once again, that point. EU4 has been out for years now. Once EU5 comes out, I'm very sure that many things will be changed compared to EU4. Then you gotta think about the DLC. Many EU4 DLCs add mission trees and that kind of stuff. Either EU5 has all those mission trees, true, and features from the start, or it'll be missing, which makes lots of nations at the start unplayable. Many people also play modded EU4, and once EU5 comes out, there will be no mods from the start, and they'll probably be like that for a few months. True. They've put so much work into EU4 that they can't make a sequel as good as it. Let's hope that that's not true. If EU5 integrates the DLC content released for EU4 into a base game and updates the engine, they will have a solid foundation to make more content. This is the best case, however, and I don't like the precedent set by the recent releases by Paradox. I agree. If EU5 is ever going to be released, it better have every EU4 DLC content. Yeah, once again, lots of those points saying that, you know, people basically want everything from EU4 into EU5 and then build on that. I would say they continue to develop EU4 while releasing EU5, same with Victoria, CK3. The playable content of is really limited when they're released. I'll probably play 30-40 hours of EU5 and switch back to EU4 again. CK3 and Vic 3 are both pretty games, but hollow as far as content and interactions. I agree. If they make EU5, it's going to be hard to compete with EU4's replayability unless they innovate the game drastically. Furthermore, Tinto still has to work on producing bug-free DLCs, so I'd have concerns about a new title launch with how some of their past work is gone. Okay, valid. I spent too much time and money in EU4 to get excited about EU5. It took them years to get EU4 to this stage. How long would it take before EU5 becomes a better game? Yeah, that's my main concern as well, bud. I do because when I do it without a tutorial, I usually fail when attempting something like the Roman Empire. vampire. I fail and you teach makes it so easy. Well, thank you, Lego Brickwood Studios. Yeah, U4 is definitely difficult to access as a new player. I remember the transition from U3 to U4. There was a drop in the feature set, but U4 was sufficiently different and showed promise of so much more that was fun to play and enjoy the journey. For U5, I think they'll need to make some fundamental changes, because if it's just an U4 reskin and reset, the lack of features will be noticeable. They just have to avoid making another Imperator, which I enjoyed but wasn't a success. Now here we have a counterpoint to some of the other comments, at least that's how I'm understanding it. This person doesn't just want U4 on a new engine, he wants a completely new game. So if I'm understanding that correctly, that's the first time we've seen that. At this point, I think they should occasionally update the graphics. Not sure if that's possible really. I just want dynamic trade flow, which they said is not possible with the U4. Might not be possible for U5 either. Enhance the game engine, build better graphics, rebalance, place in new mechanics which are impossible in current engine. Overall, I just want U5 to have a more polished and smoother U4. I think it's almost mandatory to make a U5. Just like with all things, gamers and game developers learn and evolve over time. The leaps and bounds that have been in games since the release of U4 is a long laundry list itself. I do love U4, but it's not perfect, and I believe that you can make a better U5 that outpaces U4 and its development. An optimist right here. As long as I don't need to restart the game every time, I just want to go to the main menu. I don't trust Paradox to make it a good one. Here we have a doomer statement, everyone. We'll see, I guess. Jason says, this is a mixed bag for me. I still haven't finished U4, but because I can't afford all the DLCs, I likely never will. I think the engine needs to be reworked and the business model simplified to make DLCs cosmetic instead of functional. If they do this, maybe U5 will be a good thing. Once again, I touched on why this is not possible. I need all of the achievements first. Also, I don't want Red Hawk to lose his job. Listen, you think I'm not going to become a U5 content creator? Boys, Jayako, do you not believe in me? Please, I need your approval and validation. My ego, I hope in U5 they'll fix historical mistakes, because right now U4 is on, I don't know what that means, level of accuracy. Seems pretty accurate to me, I don't know. U4 is excellent, but even if they rework every mission tree, the scope is fundamentally limited by what U4's backend code is able to handle. I agree. And I suspect trying to untangle that mess would be a huge nightmare that would take longer and turn out worse than making a new game. Yeah, every single bit of U4 content better be in it. True. On one hand, U5 will be cool because it could bring new mechanics to U4's old code that doesn't really work, such as dynamic trade. Once again, I touched on this. Maybe it won't be possible in U5 either. It could also revamp some core mechanics like mana, please no, or the stability system, please no. Who knows? On the other hand, getting U5 to a similar level of mechanical complexity and polish as U4 will take a long time. Like, let's be real, they're not going to be able to put out 10 years of work into a new game at launch. Probably true, man. So for the first few years, it'll probably be a lesser version of the game. I still hope they make a new game. U4 engine is quite old, and the game could use a little bit of revamping. Vanilla Gorilla says, if U5 has at least 70% of U4's content at launch and redo some of its jankier mechanics like the trade system and the whole colonization mechanic, perhaps it could be one of the best Paradox games has ever made. Yeah, man. This is probably the best point in this entire video. Just put 70, not even what I said, 85%. Just put 70% of U4's content at launch in U5, fix the jank mechanics. That's it. That's all you need to do, man. Of course, then again, I don't know anything about deving games or whatnot, so maybe I'm just stupid. For better or worse, I want U5. We need to move forward. Well, that's a very bright outlook on life you have, Kevdog. The game still has a lot to give. I started 8 months ago and I like the gameplay more every day. I'm not sure how an experienced player sees it, especially if they've been playing for more than 5 years. I've been playing for 9. What do you think I have to say? Why did I even make this video? I want multi-thread optimization, and they've said they can't get that done on the current game engine. Hard agree. U5 would basically be a revamp of U4 with better graphics and a bit more mechanics. At this point, Paradox could just make a mega update and call it U4 2.0 or something, and it would achieve the same goal. True. But then again, you know, it's a business. You want a sequel. I'm not learning another game, bro. This one took me long enough. Listen, Jeff. I played for 9 years. I still don't know how to play the game, man. U4 is approaching completedness within its engine limitations. Sadly, I agree. It's incredibly bloated in many aspects. At some point, PDX needs to take a big step back, call it a complete product, and begin working on U5 in an engine that will support core things like dynamic trade, nuanced military, less reliance on mana, dynamic dev, dynamic cultures, which aren't possible or are only possible with jank in U4. U4 can continue to exist as a fantastic game, and U5 can offer new possibilities as new framework. Violet Scott, I'm gonna hire you as my marketing manager. I'll take any chances of hope for a U4. I mean, 5 without mana. No, I want mana. Mostly I'm hoping for dynamic trade nodes. That alone could sell me a game with lots of less polish. We'll see. I think U5 is needed at this point since optimization has been a big problem ever since 131. Yeah, true. Performance-wise, unless you get a top-tier computer, it just fell off a cliff. True. Game runs very slow, like half its previous speed, even at speed 5 with performance mods, and a lot of graphics features off. Yeah, this person is mostly complaining about the, how slow U4 is, and I have to say I agree. It is old. It runs on a single core pretty much. yeah, I would love to have a new one, mainly hoping for better game performance. Now I'm scared that they'll get rid of units because it isn't realistic to control them directly. No, 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 no. Listen, I personally actually don't hate the war system in Victoria 3, but keep it in Victoria 3, please. I know Paradox wants to simplify stuff, you know, to get newer players in and stuff like that to make it more accessible, but there's gotta be someone right there who's gotta say, all right, let's pump the brakes on simplification. Honestly, the last few Paradox releases have me worried about any new games Paradox might release. CK3 is still not as well polished as CK2, true, though the visuals are a lot better in CK3, that's the only thing any better than CK2. Vic 3, they simplified the economics portion of the game, and it was well done, but they dropped the ball badly with the war system. I don't know about badly, but yeah. Vicky 2 didn't have the best war system either, but it was leaps and bounds better than Vic 3, and where the player has basically no input on how well the war goes. In theory, CK3 could have surpassed CK2 by now, of course, but the DLCs released have been bad at best, and there have been so little. So if they release U5, I will hold off and see if it's worth buying, because any confidence I had in Paradox left a few DLCs and a few games ago. Yeah, let's hope, you know, yeah, I actually don't have anything to add to that, man. I agree. I'm two-sided since while a new game will be nice, it'll take years for it to finally get it good and fun like U4. Yep, I came quite late to U4, so getting all the DLCs is not really an option for me. If the circle started again, I would do it since buying the DLCs on the long run is better. I agree. And then, you know, I think that's about all we have time for today. So let's end it with Chewy's comment right here. That's content, baby. And I agree. It is content, if nothing else. But yeah, man, I tried to go through a lot of these comments right here. I feel like we got through a third or at least 2/5 of them. There's so many more comments, man. You guys can check out the post, read what other people have to say, you know, go through comments that I haven't gone over with, and see if you agree with or disagree with stuff like that right here. But going back to the poll up top, and let me give you my opinion on if I want U5. You know, the results are pretty close, man, and like I said, it was even closer once the poll started. So yes, I want U5 at 58%. No, I don't want U5, 42%. It is pretty close, man. Lots of people are still attached to U4, and I do feel like a lot of people share my sentiment in you know, thinking that U4 is the pinnacle of grand strategy gaming and is the best game that Paradox has out. May not be the most popular, but it is the grand strategy game. So yeah, this vote being so close, should it concern PDX? Yes, but also not necessarily, because at the end of the day, man, the main points are, you know, just don't drop a bare bones game. Like I said, get 75% of the content that U4 has, put it into U5, make it run on many threads, not make it jank, and get rid of some lesser liked mechanics, maybe even mana, which I am opposed to. I like mana, and yeah, man, just put a bunch of stuff from U4 and U5 and stuff like that, and don't make it jank on release. And, you know, don't do the DLCs like CK3 has. Just keep doing it. One big one a year, then a small one at the end of the year. You know, Stellaris, Hearts of Iron, U4, all the old-ish games, they're going great. Vicky, Imperator, CK, not so much. So, yeah, learn from your mistakes, I guess. As for the million-dollar question, do I want Europa Universalis 5? Well, I'm not so sure, but maybe I'll change my mind in a few years by the time it comes out. So yeah, that's about all we have for today, man. Do you watching actually want U5? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, let me know in the comments below too if you want to see other videos like this where I ask questions about U4 or anything else and see your replies and give you my thoughts on it as well. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/RedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 or maybe even 5 video. Bye.